Okay, good morning. You've got a team effort from South Gloss today. That's because we all come handed when we come to that there London. And I've also realised in horror that we didn't do a jargon buster, so you'll have to struggle with Kevin's Glaswegian accent, I think. Hopefully, Penny and myself, you're hopefully going to deal with. So if I just ask everyone to introduce themselves. So I'm Sharon Adams. I'm the Commissioning Manager at South Gloss Council, and I'm responsible for the Early Help and Preventative Services Commissioning.
So I'm Penny Baker, I'm the Youth Work Manager at Crunch South West, which is based in Thornbury and just north of South Gloucestershire.
Hi colleagues, I'm Kevin Sweeney and I'm the Strategic Lead for Early Help in South Gloucestershire.
So first up you're going to hear, we were peer reviewed in January. I think we were one of the first, if not the first. So I'm just going to give you an overview of the commissioning model that we operate in South Gloss, because that's something that the review team highlighted that might be of interest to colleagues here. Penny is obviously from our Youth Work Partnership, so is going to talk about that bit. And then Kevin is going to talk about the review in a bit more detail, what we got from it and how we found it. But just as a little bit of context to start you off, South Gloss, we kind of wedged between Bristol and Bath and Gloucestershire. We're a unitary authority, and we've got some really large areas of industry, particularly joining Bristol. So we've got home of Concord and some massive leisure and sort of retail parks. But you go 5 minutes from that and you're in a very rural area with a lot of small towns and small villages. So transport for young people is a big issue in South Gloss. And population's about 300,000 and our annual expenditure budget is about 700 million, to give a bit of context. We were recently a Conservative control council, and we moved in the elections to no overall control, and we are a Labour and Liberal pact at the moment. So that's us. And in the beginning, so this is now 8 years ago, we were delivering the council, it was an in-house service delivered by the council, 2 youth club nights a week in each of our priority neighbourhood. Priority neighbourhood is the kind of old SRB or is it lower super output areas now, but there was a slight tweak, and I don't know how they counted it, that our priority neighbourhoods include an element of community capacity. So there was a feeling that if you put a couple of quid into that community, they'd be able to generate more with it. So we've got 6 priority neighbourhooods. We were also delivering 3 youth club nights a week for young people with learning difficulties or disabilities. And then on top of that, we had a what was called a Positive Activities Grant Scheme. And the total budget for that was 389,000. I was brought in 2017 to sort of start the commissioning process, and the drivers for that change were to retain a universal youth service. Back in 2017, obviously the South West Regional Youth Work Unit just closed, and in-house youth services were often being targeted for a lot of the cuts, so it was a really difficult time for youth work. But in South Gloss, there was that desire to retain that universal youth service. We were in the middle of a council savings programme even back then, but this was at least a planned change and not a forced change, so that was positive for us. We'd already started to asset transfer many of our youth and community centres, and one of the big factors was that an alternative model for delivery was proposed by our local VCS. They basically said, if you give us that 389,000, we think that we can generate a lot more provision for young people from that money than you can. So that was particularly for our members. The prospect of savings was obviously a big driver, which is why we embarked on the commissioning process. So this is the commission. This was the one that was launched 5 years ago, and we are just about to start new contracts on the 1st of April, and we haven't really changed the model because thankfully the model we set up worked, and so we've stuck with it. We divided South Gloss into 3 lots, 3 areas, and we did that because we felt that would give much more opportunity for our smaller, locally youth-based organisations to actually successfully tender and win the contracts. Again, at the time, there were a lot of big national organisations picking up these kind of contracts, and actually we wanted to protect our local voluntary sector. So we divided it up into small lots. And each lot had in it some priority neighbourhoods and the need to do a session a week for young people with disabilities. We also introduced a lot for, which was just £10,000, but it was an important £10,000, and that was to set up some specialist support for young people who identify as LGBTQ. That had come from our needs assessment when we identified that group as something that were struggling sometimes with bullying. We'd had a people survey that said they were struggling a lot, and so we felt there was a need for some specialist provision, so we incorporated that into the law. So the first year, it was the whole of the 389,000 that was devolved to the Commission. And in the second year, and the one that's just gone, we managed to increase that to 440,000. So we got an increase, which is fairly good in these times. And the budget was also top-sliced to include some commissioning support. So there is some dedicated officer support for commissioning to support the contract. Partnership in the tender process. We offered this contract as a fixed price tender, which is relatively unusual as a commissioner, because I'm usually asked to get the cheapest price. In this case, we devolved the whole budget over to the process, and we said, what can you deliver for that money, not what can you deliver for the cheapest price. So we did it that way. We also specified that no provider could win more than one geographical area. So again, it retained the youth partnerships that we had, and also employer partnerships, because although you couldn't win more than one lot, you could be a partner in another lot. And we also went out to talk to our town and parish councils, and that was at least 18 months before tendering. And we went out with a message to say we had some funding, but unfortunately that wouldn't provide a youth club or youth provision in every town and every parish, so they had to chip in. And we were quite sort of strict with the message that unless they were in a priority neighbourhood, they wouldn't get anything for free. So we kind of went out with that offer, and thankfully there were some hard conversations, as you can imagine, but they did respond. We also sort of clarified that our funding as a local authority would target the 13 years plus. So what a town and parish council could consider is funding something for under 13s, and particularly that transition year, which we know is quite important. So that was the kind of the message. And we went out there, we did a lot of work pre-tender to get them on board. So what we managed to achieve was match funding of 570,000 against that contract value, and there's still more coming in. We've still got some extra bits and pieces that we're still waiting on confirming. So we more than doubled our money, which was a really great achievement, and it meant that more provision was going out to young people. The other thing we did, which we offered 7-year contracts. That was a message from the voluntary sector to say, if you want us to help us with getting grant funding and recruit and retain staff, we need long-term contracts. So we offered a 7-year. And I know that there's a lottery bid pending at the moment, and the lottery were really heartened to see that as a, that was a good risk for them if the local authority was chipping in 7,000. Now I'm changing over.
Cool. So we were as Crunch, we were one of the recipients of some of the funding. We were based in Lot 1. There's 4 lead providers, so we've got FACE, LBW, CYN, and the Diversity Trust, which specialises in the LGBTQ support. And then you've got the subcontractors, so there's 10 organisations in all. And what it's done is, for us as an organisation, it's made us feel part of a bigger picture, and also we've been able to secure funding from other organisations as well. So there's an organisation lead, and I think one of the strengths of the partnership, being part of the partnership, has been having somebody that's specifically had the role of kind of bringing the partners together, and that was somebody from CYN, which is an organisation that had capacity to bring all of the organisations together and to kind of lead the partnership. The successes, so I think the influence on town and parish councils has been massive. For us, again, as a small community organisation, we started off with just about 9 young people and just delivering a couple of youth clubs a night, and we've now got like over 1,000 young people on the books, and we deliver 5 nights a week. And it's been a real influence on the town and parish councils to fund our work, and I think they've actually doubled their funding for us over the period of time. We get the the communication we get back from the town and parish councils is we don't do youth work, as in they don't do youth work, but they've turned that on its head now and they say yes, we do youth work, and we do that by partnering with an organisation that actually knows how to do youth work. So so that's been a really positive message. The South Gloucestershire Youth Network is the network that all came together to form a partnership. So that is what the partnership is called. And together we reach over 3,000 young people a year. And I think the message about consistency and quality service, shared outcomes and impact is really important as well. So we all come from these small organisations. We've all got a way of doing things, but I think what it's helped us to do is kind of like bring that quality together and share that consistency, so that we're all doing excellent youth work and reaching that kind of NYA standard. We all as well. We had a bit of a issue around accreditation at one point, because it's just like young people should be able to come and not feel forced to do accreditation. We should be doing learning in a different way. But actually, we started to deliver the South Gloucestershire Youth Award, and we all do that together. And it's accreditation offer this still a fun way for young people to learn and get something tangible out of what they learn. The upskilling of the workforce as well. I think we all share training, which is really important, and one organisation might have a particular skill in one area, and so we've been able to kind of share stories and be able to upskill in different areas. Like for instance, with the Diversity Trust have been really integral in teaching us all how to support young people from the LGBTQ community, and out of that there's two of us as a partnership who are now delivering monthly LGBTQ nights. And the case study there is obviously something that you can go and have a look into, but this is where we all came together as a partnership to carry on delivering over the COVID, so we continue to work all together, but we could do that because we supported each other. We went with the National Youth Agency guidelines, and we were able to continue that work, which is really important. Challenges and learning. So I think one of the challenges is, which we didn't realise at the time being part of a partnership, is the commitment to time, the management and the coordination. I think is something that you have to be able to put into. And you won't always agree. All of us have got our own way of doing things, and we rubbed up against each other for a little while. But actually, it was that process was really important, and we came up with our own terms of reference and memorandum of understanding. And now we've got that connection where we know how to work with each other. And even when somebody else comes along, like there's a new organisation that's just joined us with a specialism with working with young people with additional needs, they've been able to be supported by the partnership, and they now understand what it means to be part of the partnership. Acknowledging the difference while working towards a common goal. We're all passionate about working with young people, and I think one of the real positives for us working with the council is we've got councillors, we've got people here who are passionate about working with young people as well, and I've talked to a lot of businesses who don't share that passion. Keeping it local, I think that's been massive as well. As we know, there's some organisations that try and kind of like dive in and take over an organisation, but we're on the ground. We've got that grassroots knowledge of what young people need. So I think we've really appreciated that our voice has been heard within that kind of process. And the peer review was actually a really good experience for us. So we were part of that. I'm not just saying that because Andy's here, but and he gave us. It was kind of, we didn't really know what was happening to start with, and we were just like, we were being inspected, but they just came, and it was really positive. It was great that they were able to talk to young people. They came with that kind of youth work head on, and it was really nice that the young people felt empowered to be able to kind of speak up and have a voice in how we were doing, and we came out of it really well. So So yeah, so that gives us that commitment to that ongoing development and standardisation, which was talked about earlier on. Okay.
So, as Andy explained, sort of 5 key themes. Now, one of the things from our point of view is that as youth workers, we want to gain the system work for us. So we had a local things that were happening, what we wanted to make sure is to raise the profile of youth. And one of the things with the peer review was it did do that. It was allowed our DCSs, allowed us head of service and service managers to come together and be speaking to a national body. And that's often one of the benefits of the NYE as a national body is it gets the attention of decision makers. People clearly value youth work, but sometimes you want to get key people in the room. And one of the things we did, again, because we were working it, we only chose one area. We didn't, you get a choice. We chose one. And the reason we chose one was because we particularly wanted to look at partnership, because a lot of our work is around partnership, and we particularly wanted to see what was the benefit of our model. We're quite confident that it's a good model, but we thought it would be really good for other people to come and look at it, and for other people to ask that question. Does the commission model work across multiple partners? How do you deal with competition when you've got small voluntary organisations who are all trying, they all want to deliver youth work, they want to deliver their way, and how does that work? Do we get, as we thought it does, additional money in and resources for youth work? Does it actually bring more stuff in? Does the council meet, how does it support the council meeting national responsibilities? And that last question, is there sufficient provision? Now, one of the strengths in terms of the partnership or the peer reviewers coming in and looking at was that the review team found that it was cohesive, the partnership did work. There was added value. Now, one of the things probably because some people in the room don't have town and parish councils. Just to let you know, town and parish council are a very English thing and they're amazing. The powers that town and parish council have, they can hold referenda, they can raise money, they can do budgets. So for example, if we live in an area that has a town and parish council, they have in effect a little mini council tax. They can raise money. So they can raise money and give it to youth work. It's an incredible model. And we've worked really hard, particularly Sharon has worked really hard to build those relationships. As in youth work, it's about building relationships. And we're starting to see the benefit of that. So we have, Sharon says, we've just about doubled the amount of money, and it's still not a lot of money, but we've doubled the amount of money available for youth work. And it is youth work. It's not leisure provision, it is youth work. We're town and parish council are now funding youth work. What we're saying is we can deliver it, we don't have the skills, but we're happy to provide colleagues and partners who've got those skills to deliver on our behalf. The other thing the peer review team found was that there has been growth. All contractors have grown. Part of that, we think, is that we've provided the seed money. As a local authority, we've stood by and said, right, we're going to fund this, and we have, as colleague said, we did a 7-year contract, so it's a 5-year plus 2. And we spoke to the office and said, look, we don't have tons of money, but what would help? And the key message was, give us longer contracts. And one of the benefits of commissioning is you can't do that. We commissioned our health service contracts for 10, 15 years. Why can't we fund? There's nothing to stop a local authority deciding through its commission arrangements to commission youth work at any service for a longer period of time. And that has made a big difference. It's allowed us time to build those relations with parish councils. Because at the start, the parish councils, not unreasonably, were saying, you're the local authority, it's your job to provide these services to local young people, why should we do it? And we still get that, but over time, by saying, look, this is what we are providing, we've convinced them and giving people time. So all the organisations have grown. They've all grown in terms of the size of their organisation, not just the big ones, but also the smaller ones as well. And they've continued to grow. The review team found examples of good practice. One of the things we talked about is We Are 33, which is a sort of a youth engagement event we do nationally, we do annually. Ourselves in Bristol do it together. So again, that trying to be cooperative and recognising as youth workers as all for benefit. One of the things we talked about in terms of data there is, as well as obviously the young people's needs, we also do the online pupil survey, which some people may be aware of. The online pupil survey is that we do it every 2 years. It's done through secondary schools and it's done through a public health team, and it focuses very much on well-being, emotional well-being for young people. We started this in 2021 with 8,000 responses, 2023 with 12,000 responses, and that's really rich data from young people telling us their lived experience. It's not individualised, but what people who don't know it is that individual schools get a response about their school, and it tells you the experience of young people in their school, what they think. And that's been beneficial, not just to us, but also spread into our needs assessment. It's also benefited schools, so we have conversations with schools. Local youth providers can talk to schools and say, your OPS is saying that, your young people are thinking this, are they feeling this? We think we can respond to that. So that idea of using data is really important. I think it was also good that we did recognise the GNC. We don't say you must employ GNC qualified workers in terms and conditions. We do say every lot must have a GNC qualified worker in the state. It's not perfect, but again, it was that thing. We wanted to build it into the system. And I guess one of the strengths of the peer review was that they did say there was key staff who were very, very championing youth work. But what we're also keen to do is to make sure it's not down to individuals. We have got to make sure we build a model that is robust enough so that as and when we move on, the model succeeds and the model continues, and that's really important. The recommendations that came through from the peer review is in terms of that idea of strengthening youth work understanding requirements, because some people still don't have that view. We might think we're really clear, and that was really useful for us, for people to say, actually, you don't have to do youth offer. So of course, your model's good, you need to be clearer, and we'll take that away and work on that. The idea of being consistent GNC requirements. In some respects, the review team found we did quite a lot of GNC qualified workers purely by luck. Basically, it's the old local authority workers who were made redundant and got a job in the voluntary sector. So luckily, we have quite a lot of GNC staff purely by chance. I guess one of the challenges for us, I'll come back to that in a second. So, yeah, I'll come back to that bit. So, the other bit in terms of GNC is that thing about how do we build that in? How do we build it? We do need to continue building up participation. We've got quite good models of participation, but we need to do more. And again, that's probably one of our missed opportunities, probably wasn't involved in peer reviews. That would be quite useful for them to test their models. And again, the recommendation, how do you ensure you protect the partnership so it doesn't fall down with key members of staff leave and move on? So one of the reflections for us, the old JNC, dusted it off, and we might find the smaller one, the little A5 one if you remember. So one of the things for us reflection on JNC is that, yes, we should have more GNC. We absolutely support the idea of the GNC, but it is really difficult. And Charlie made the point of age, how gorgeous and young you all are. But one of the questions I would challenge, certainly in our authority, is how many GNC qualified workers are under the age of 40, or even under the age of 50? We have got to rebuild the workforce. And we know that as a local authority, but we also need the NYA. This is not just a local issue. There's not enough money just to say you've got to be GNC. If I'm the local authority and I'm saying to Penny, I want you to employ GNC, I've got to give them money to employ GNC. So there's got to be a difficult conversation. It's great we've got qualification. We'd like to develop that. I think that's one of the big reflections. I'm really hopeful that the peer review programme keeps on talking about GNC. It will be a challenge, but I think it's a good challenge. It's a good challenge for us to go back and say, what can we do to make sure there is more GNC? How do we, as Lee said, how do we use the apprenticeship levy? How do we make sure that we help fund, not just get people qualified, but paid on terms and conditions? I, as a youth worker, 15, 20 years ago, I could have spoken to a young worker and they said, Kev, I'm thinking of a career, what can I do? And I could say, youth work, teaching social working. If I'm having that conversation today, I find it hard pressed with my hand on my heart for that young person to say, become a youth worker. You don't have a career structure. I'm lucky, I got one. But it is really difficult, so we've got to create that environment. That's one of the reflections for us. The other reflection for us would be that it was good that we were allowed the choice to choose one. It'd probably be better if it was brave as our college of teens and went for the whole 5. Because I think part of the reason for that would allow us to start to benchmark, not in a competitive way, but in a way to start to see what are the standards across the country. What is it looking like?
And I think that's what our learning would be from NYA. We probably say, make us do all things. More work for us, but I think there would be more learning.